So I am presenting on sharenting. So just to start with a broad overview of the issue, obviously, first of all, I need to address what is sharenting. So, as you can probably guess, sharenting is a combination of sharing and parenting. So, anytime that a parent is posting on social media either a picture or information about one of their children or multiple, that's considered sharenting. And part of the definition is that it's without the child's consent, and sometimes without their knowledge. Obviously, if you're posting a picture of your infant, they aren't going to know that you're posting. They can't give consent, nor will they have the knowledge. As children get older, um, obviously they can start to give consent and know what you're doing, but sharenting specifically is without the consent and sometimes without knowledge. So who is sharenting? People that are already active on social media. So the strongest predictor of sharenting is if you are active on social media already. And a lot of these parents that are active on social media, they don't really differentiate between posting about themselves and posting about their children, as was found in a study cited below. Um, Parents with a strong support system are sharenting, especially if the support system encourages them to do it, which makes sense. A lot of times this is because um, like friends and family want to be keeping updated on the parent's child. So that support system wants the information about the children, so it encourages parents to share it. Parents with confident and permissive parenting styles, as compared to more like nervous or strict parenting styles, the confident and permissive parents are more likely to share it. And then parents of children that are active on social media and parents that follow parent influencers, both of these are also predictors of sharenting in parents. And the source below says that a study of 493 parents of young children in the US found that the majority of parents were comfortable posting without their child's permission. So they were comfortable sharenting. So, as far as some trends and statistics related to sharenting, um, what is being shared? So, the study cited at the bottom tells us that 19% of posts, sharenting posts, so any kind of post about your child, 19% of those include the child's full name and their date of birth. So likely most of these are baby announcements. Um, and then 45% of these posts include the child's first name. So maybe the child is older. Um, you're not going to share their date of birth randomly, but um, just saying in the caption something like, "Oh, today Ella, I don't know, made this out of Play-Doh," and sharing that child's first name is in 45% of posts. And a study in Europe found that the average parent is sharing 300 posts per year, including sensitive information and or photos of their children. So it's very, very common. Some perceptions. In a survey of 326 parents of children aged 15 or younger, 60% of the parents perceive sharenting to be beneficial. So it's very widespread, and the majority of parents feel comfortable doing it. They think it's beneficial. So, kind of sharing both sides of the argument, starting with the pros of sharenting. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of parents that are sharenting have strong support systems already and want to share with friends and family. But this is also a way that parents can find more support systems if they're kind of putting themselves out there on social media. They can connect with other parents that have maybe a similar situation or children the same age or same hobbies or whatever. Um, and like was already mentioned, keeping family and friends up to date. And then parents can potentially earn additional income. Um, Sorry, my slide got a little messed up, but those both popped up at the same time. But this additional income can come from potential like influencer type status. And then one of the other pros of Sharenting is that parents can have a platform to publicly praise their children. Some of the cons of Sharenting. In the study cited at the bottom, both parents and adolescents expressed concern about the child's privacy when parenting. So obviously the cons are all related to privacy, as you can probably guess. Some of the risks associated with parenting include identity theft, sexual exploitation, and future emotional distress for the child. And that emotional distress, it doesn't necessarily have to be related to identity theft or sexual exploitation. It can be as simple as like, I didn't give my mom permission to post that I failed my math test. I feel taken advantage of, or I feel embarrassed, or even something not as intense as that, but even just maybe an embarrassing moment that a parent films of their child and then posting that on social media can be distressing for children. So, this quote from this source says the availability of this information, and this is going back to that graph that I made earlier about sharing the full name and date of birth. So, this information coupled with illegally obtained social security data on the dark web can expose children to serious risks, including digital kidnapping and all those other risks that were previously mentioned. So, that's kind of the problem. Um, so my argument and my take is simply that it's not worth the risk. I think while sharenting can be really tempting and a fun way to keep up to date with people, um, we just went over the risks and they can be super high. So something that's kind of interesting that was found in this study was that parents are aware of the risks, yet they aren't doing anything about it. While awareness of the risks of parenting did lead to overall decreased posting frequency among parents, they still posted sensitive information. So, in this study cited at the bottom, parents were informed about the risks associated, and it led to them posting less frequently, but it didn't stop their parenting. They just did it less often, which is kind of silly. I guess gotta start somewhere. Another reason why I am arguing against sharenting is that everyone has the right to privacy. Privacy is something that's protected legally in most countries in the world, as the source at the bottom states. But sharenting is kind of a gray area because parents kind of have a certain right over their children. But posting about your children without their consent, in my mind, is an invasion of privacy. And then, given the risks, there are just safer ways to accomplish the pros. The pros, like keeping up to date with friends and family, you can do that by texting photos to friends and family. That's a much safer, less public way to do it. And if you're not close enough with someone to text them, they probably don't need to be keeping up to date on your child, anyways. Um, Another pro was finding a support system, but there are other ways to find community. You can join Facebook groups, you can go to church, you can go to parks and rec centers, get to know your neighbors. There are lots of ways to find community, other than just posting and sharing about your child. And then um, something that's kind of interesting is just this growing trend as sharenting becomes more and more of a debate among people is that there are ways to still post about your child, but do it in a more safe way. So you can hide their face, you can stay away from sharing personal information like names, birthdays, activities, what your child is up to, anything that could clue someone into where your child might be on a given day, things like that. So, in conclusion, while it is kind of a tricky topic, and as an expecting mother myself, I've definitely thought a lot about it, but I just think that in the end, the risk is not the risk is greater than the reward.